Amen. God bless you. You may be seated. I give honor to Dr. Harden, to all of our elders and our ministers and our deacons and all of you that are present. Missionaries, God bless you on tonight. Family crisis and where they originated from. We have a lot of crises that we don't realize they are crises until sometime they're put away, they're dead, or they're sick. But tonight we're going to see where crisis really originated from. Then once we get that, I think it would help us, and that's why I wanted you all to have handouts for two reasons. Number one, we can go faster. Number two, you have it as a keepsake. From the beginning of time, Satan's plans have been to destroy the unit existing between men and women. After sin entered this world, division became an issue. Before the fall, Adam and Eve was working together, co-reigning, given dominion over the earth, and told to subdue it. They could have both done it together. It was never God's will for Adam and Eve to have different will. He told them, if you look at Genesis chapter 1:27, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. So when God created Adam and Eve at the same time, he said for them to be fruitful, for them to multiply, for them to replenish the earth. So God wanted it to be a joint effort, not a separate effort, but a joint effort. Adam was uniquely blended a blend of all traits and characteristics of both male and female. Everything that the woman needs, God put it in Adam. Everything that the man needs, God put it in Adam. So Adam was uniquely blended of all the traits and characteristics of both male and female. Adam was complete in himself as God is complete in himself. However, being complete, he didn't have one like himself to keep him company and to love. Now, look what Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 9 through 12 says. Two are better than what? Because they have what? A good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will do what? Lift the other up, will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that what? Is alone when he falleth, for he have not another to help him up. Again, if two lie together, then they have what? Heat. But lo, how can one be warm alone? And if one prevail against him, two should do what? Withstand, and threefold cord is what? Not quickly broken. And so Solomon was giving us examples of the power of being together, just being together. And that's what God wanted. He created us to be together. Now, you can take a little piece of thread, a needle, and you can break that one needle, one part of thread, if it's just by itself. But if you wrap another one around it, it becomes twice as hard. If you do it threefold and wrap it right, then it becomes strength. And that one thread that couldn't pick up a pound now can pick up about 10 or 15 pounds before it breaks. And so once we wrap ourselves around each other in love and in kindness, we will find that we are much more stronger together. So God had already given them dominion over the earth. Genesis 1:28, 1:27-28. So God created man in his what? Own image, I mean representation. We went over that. And in the image of God created he what? Him, male and female created he what? And God blessed who? Them. And God said unto, be what? Fruitful, and multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it, and have what? Over what? Stand, fowls of the air, and over every living thing that continue to move upon the earth. So God did not separate giving them the power. He didn't separate. He gave it to them. Now, what went wrong? God knew together the first couple would stand. He knew a house divided against itself would not stand in Mark. Then in Deuteronomy 32 and 30, he said, how should one chase 1,000 and two put 10,000 to flight? Except their rock have sold them, and the Lord have shut them up. Shut them up. So it giving you one can chase 1,000, but two can put 10,000 to a flight. That's a lot of power. So this speaks to us to the power of two. So there's a lot of power in two. That's why the Bible said, if two of you touch and agree on anything that he would bring it to pass, he would do it. And while I just said that, on Sunday night, you all remember in the prayer when I told you we weren't going to receive an offering, just a tithe, and that God said that he will supply the offering for this week? On Tuesday morning, a person came in and left, well, they didn't get it that day, but today they brought it back, $2,700. That was more than we're going to raise in the offering. I can tell you that. That was much more than we were going to raise in the offering on Sunday night. And so, you know, when God says something, we have to act on it. We don't have to try to understand it, but when you hear God's voice, just act on it. And God always will do what he promised to do. And so God decided to make Adam into two persons, and then make the two person one again. All right, how did he do that? Eve was in Adam. They was one. So God put Eve out of Adam. They became two. But then when he married them, he told them to go back to one. Cleve, and the two should be one. Okay, I missed somebody on that. Let me just try it again. Okay, God made Adam and Eve at the same time. They was one. Then when he pulled Eve out of Adam, they was two. But when he married them, he made them back one again. I got the scripture here. Now, Satan had already been thrown out of heaven. This is Revelation 12, 7 through 9. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angel fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither were their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels was cast out with him. So the devil was on the earth before Eve and Adam, because the earth, how many of you have heard, was here when I talked about the gap theory? That between Genesis 1, and I don't have time to go through all of it now, but between Genesis verse 1 and Genesis verse 2, something happened. Something happened. And that's called the gap theory. Now, there was a strong bond between Adam and Eve. The first accomplished by Satan was to put a rift between the two. He broke the connection between man and woman. That's the first thing. Now, God wanted them to be one. But the first thing the devil knew, he had to put a rift, put a strife in there, some envy in there, something to tear them apart. Because he knew the power of two. He knew the power of two. So he broke the connection between man and woman. Second thing, he broke the connection between mankind and God. One of the most powerful keys a woman possesses is the power of influence. The power of influence. Eve influenced Adam to eat. Eve was in the darkness about what she did, but Adam wasn't. Adam knew he wasn't supposed to do it. Adam knew he wasn't supposed to do it. God did not jump on Eve first for doing it, but he said to Adam, where art thou? Where you were, Adam? I told you the day that you eat thereof, you're going to die. So, brothers, women was given the power of persuasion. All right. All right, let's look at it. Who brought Samson down? Who brought David down? Should I continue to go on? Who was this woman that persuaded this man to drink and then drove a nail through his head? Anybody read that? A woman. Who is it that persuades men to stop in their cars and come all over from other places to see them? Okay. I think I got the point over. So, Satan used his influence to get Eve, and she used her influence to get Adam. Instead of letting her be separated from God by herself, Adam gave in. You have to read the whole 3rd chapter, you see it. Adam gave in. It didn't look like it took too much, because she looked at it and said, look good, tastes good. And the man ate. Now, does that mean that God strapped his plan for oneness after Adam and Eve deserted the ship? No. God still wanted them to be one. And God punishment for Satan divided Adam and Eve. Divided Adam and Eve is found in Genesis. All right, let's look at Genesis 3:15, what God first did. He said, I will put what? Intimacy between thee and the what? And between thy seed and her seed. And he shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt what? Now, here's what this word bruise means. It means to become an adversary to the woman. Satan knew that he was going to become an adversary to the woman. He goes on to say, I'm going to put intimate between you all. That's hostility, antagonism, and a bad attitude and feelings against you. So Satan now understand that this antagonist was Jesus coming to bruise his head. He knew that from the beginning. He was in heaven. He was thrown out, never to return again. Now, here's something where somebody may think about it, but never to return again. So if you look in Job talked about that God would meet with his sons, and Satan appeared. But it never said he was in heaven where he was meeting with them. We assume. And a lot of times we assume stuff that is not there, and we just think if God have talked to somebody, they have to be in heaven with him. Well, God had met us, and we weren't in heaven with him. Huh? Don't he meet us here in other places? And we're not in heaven. Okay. But heaven is wherever God wanted to be anyway. Note. So, Satan knew the seed of the woman was Jesus. Therefore, the devil hated the woman and the man. Adam and Eve faced consequences too. God did not design man to control the woman. The man, was to be in control, but after Eve influenced Adam to disobey God, he put him in charge of Eve. After Eve disobeyed, under the persuasion of the devil, then God put him in charge. Look at Genesis chapter 3, 16 through 21. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly what? Thou sorrow and thou what? Conception. And sorrow thou shalt what? Bring forth children. And thou desire shall be to who? To your husband. And look like you see a comma there. What did you do with a comma? You pause. And look like in between that pause, Eve said, what? And he said, he shall rule over you. He shall rule over you. Everybody get that? We're talking about, now notice what we're talking about. We're talking about family crisis and where they originated from. And Adam said, and unto Adam he said, because thou have hearkened or listened unto the voice of thy wife, and have eaten of the tree, of the which I commanded thee, saying. See, who did he command? Thee, saying, thou shalt not what? Cursed is the what? For thou sake. And sorrow thou shalt what? Eat of it how long? And what else did God say? Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee. And thou shalt what? Eat the herbs of the field. In the what? Sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread. Till thou what? You return unto the ground, for out of it was thou what? For dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. And Adam called his wife name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. Unto Adam also, he said, unto Adam and Eve, his wife, did the Lord God make coats of skin and clothe them. Why did he clothe them? They knew they was naked and they had sinned, and the light that covered them had went out. That's why they didn't know they was naked, because the glory of God covered them and they could not see themselves. It's a bad thing when we see ourselves. When we see ourselves, then we will repent, because ourselves is what causes us all the problem. So if we just look at ourselves internally, it won't be a glorious thing to see. We will see how frail we are. We may look at ourselves on the outside and think that we are all of this. If somebody said popcorn and a bag of chips or something, a Coke and a bag of chips. But we find out if you look inside yourself, you really is not that. Now, it appeared that God punished for Adam was to let him experience exactly what he had experienced, the rebellion of the woman. Okay, that's what God, that God experienced. Eve rebelled. So God said, I'm not going to handle her. I'm not going to handle her, because she came from you. I put her in you. So I'm going to leave that to you to handle her. Can I get one amen? Men was quite naturally solid that, but I didn't hear nothing too much from the women. All right, now let's see how this works. Women are still fighting submission with bitterness and anger. With all the women movements, some are still accepting the lies of the enemy as true. Can I get an amen? I mean, the women movements is strong, and the women persuasion is strong. Now I can tell you, the Democrats and the Republicans may not be able to get Trump out, but I guarantee you the women movement will. What's the name of that group they got now? By telling it? Me Too. Let Me Too step up. See, won't he too be gone? Well, so Adam rebelled against God's authority and took things into his own hand. Now Adam got a taste of his own medicine. God put him in charge, and now he would have to get to feel what rebellious feelings are like. Women are still paying today for what Eve did. Women are still fighting submission with bitterness and anger. With all the women's movements, some are still accepting the lies of the enemy as truth, and they are still trying to use subtlety or methods of controlling over others. They use trickery, ways of weaving through their anger. What do they realize? What do they not realize is that what they do not realize is that God did not make the woman inferior to the man. Rather, placed a special value on them. Look at the special value that God put on you. Now, maybe you didn't know it, but I just want to tell you. On the positive side, God had purpose for the women to be under her husband. The first purpose is for the protection, since she was used by Satan to cause man's downfall. The second is man is to cover her so she will be protected from such time of temptation. 3, the power of influence she had over Adam had to be brought under structure and control. It just was too much of power. Get a man to eat some fruit that he don't know nothing about. That's I got to keep my head down here. But women's are extremely loved by God. This is why Satan tried to divide Adam and Eve in the garden. Now, watch the power and stuff that God gave to the woman. He, Satan, knew Jesus Christ, our Savior, was to be born of a woman. Though Adam and Eve was put out of the garden, Satan knew what the woman would be used, that the woman would be used as an instrument to destroy. He knew it. So it's a struggle for the women's and it's a struggle for the men. But Psalm 34, 17 through 19 said, the righteous cry, and the Lord heareth, and deliver them out of all of their trouble. The Lord is nigh unto them that are of broken heart, and save such as be of contrite spirit. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord deliver him out of them all. This word contrite here is a Hebrew word that is darkov, which means to crush into powder or to pulverize into powder or dust, or to be brought down, to be armor, or being crushed or beaten down. Contrite. God hears. Now, if you look in the Bible and you read the Bible, you find that almost every time, unless it was a Jezebel, a woman of God got in trouble, God helped him. When Deborah in the book of Judges, and they had called this man to go out to fight. I believe it was, what's his name? I'll call him in a minute. Was to go out to fight, the man that was hiding, Gideon. He said, I'm not going anywhere unless you go. Deborah, Barak, I'm not going unless you go. And they went, and look what happened. They defeated the armies that came against them. But Barak did not want to take the credit. But Deborah, knowing that this would be a mockery, let him take credit. And there's a lot of things, even today in our churches. Women have been in certain churches, including ours, put in the background. They said they couldn't preach. If they preach, God didn't call them to preach. They use some scriptures that are taken out of context, and then they use some. They put them with animals. That if a rooster, if a hen crows, we cook it. Didn't they say that? So they took it out of context because they in the Bible, the children, they didn't count the women's. They only counted the males. And so they took the law further than God ever intended it to be, because he said 2 is better than 1. So here we see then that the women's have gone through a whole lot of things. Broken hearts are the biggest problem in our marriages. The biggest problems in most marriages, and almost every marriage, is problem. Biggest problem in our marriage is broken hearts. Now, the devil have set a destructive course against the treatment of God's people in this society. This is why so many of God's peoples are devastated and brokenhearted in our society. Now, here's some of the things that many of our women and men have to deal with. Many of our women and men in our society, our home, have a poor relationship with their father or their mothers. That poor relationship that they have with their father and mother, they carry it over into their own lives, and their children has passed on. It's a curse. It's a curse. What were some of the poor relationships they had? They had a hard time trusting and maintaining a good relationship with God and with others. And with others. This happened more with women, even though some are thought to be good Christians. A broken heart in a woman or man is a hidden problem. Some of the signs are explosive anger and depression. Now, I've had men, so many men have said, some of you've seen it. You've had women that would hold it until it's stored, and all of a sudden they just, phew. Didn't you know, amen? They just let it all come out. I mean, everything. Thing that you just wouldn't even know coming out, they're coming out. Explosives. Okay. That didn't go over that well. Uncontrollable appetites for food or food. It's much harder for women to get off of drugs than men. But yet, statistics tells us that more women come off, even though they have a harder time. The crave is even greater, but they do it. Men are much more macho and much more in denial. They deny that they have a problem, where the women will soon accept they have a problem and work on the problem. They may go through some rough things, but they'll get it together. They'll get it together quicker than men. Now, explosives and depression, uncontrolled appetite for food, drugs, excitement, overzealous, or trying to be perfectionists. Those are some of the things that causes, because you come from a bad root, a bad thing. Now, that's not, and there's that, we can't say that in the African American, Hispanics, and some of the lower class Caucasians, we can't say that we had a perfect home, because they put the drugs in our communities. They put the alcohol in our community. You do not see in the middle class community, you don't see a liquor store on every corner. You don't see places people hang out, playing cards, dice. And, you know, when I take my son to school every morning, there is a, what do they call them, is medical marijuana house right on the corner. If you get there, you turn the corner before 9 o'clock. They're lined up. I mean, lined up to get drugs. And you, I mean, you know that most of them are poor, but they lined up to get it. And so now some of the young people that sold drugs and others, they're making it hard. They're making it hard for them to sell on the street, and they have to take that chance. So they're building more prisons, because the police are sitting down the corner, and they open up a package, they're going to pull them over. So all of this is a conflict that we go through. Not only that, the broken hearts, the women's the hearts are broken because the man is hidden hidden in the problem. Women's taking care of men. Women's taking care of no good men. Now, let me say it another way. Men taking care of a male, because they're not a man. Because a man takes care of his family. Unless he's sick and can't do no better, a man takes care of his family. I don't care who hears it and don't like it, they take care of his family. And women's, some of the authority and persuasion you have, you ought to persuade that person that if he don't have a job, you're not the person for him. And don't let him start laying up with you and playing house. Because all you is to them is a doll, a playhouse. He ought to have a house to marry you and put you in, not come and play in your house. Now they're going out, and I hope they do go out, or all of those that are listening. Oh, 2 Timothy, thank you. Thou, therefore, endure hardness as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. No man that wars entangle himself with the affairs of his life, that he may please him who have chosen him to be a soldier. And if a man also strive for mastery, yet is he not crowned except he strive lawfully. So you can't sell dope, drug, knock people in the head, and think God gonna bless you. A broken-hearted woman, just above that, a broken-hearted woman or man is a hidden problem. Some are often some of the signs that you can notice: explosive anger, depression, uncontrollable appetite of food. I did read that, didn't I? So if our women's, the devil is fighting the most, it's our women that the devil is fighting most to keep them in bondage through fear, low self-esteem, bitterness, unforgiveness. This is something more prevalent in our minority, in our minority and poor communities. You don't really see a lot of folks in the nail shop that got a lot of money. The one that got welfare, they sit up there and tell me what nobody won't give them. I'm not against folk getting your nails done. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, but you'll see more poor people that's not able to do it, doing it. The weaves, I didn't know weave cost as much as they cost. I just don't know where I'm gonna get a weave. No $400 or $500 on my head for they to go fight and somebody snatch it out. I'm just telling the truth. I didn't say nothing about you. It didn't look good, but then they get the weave, and some of them change every week. Makeup. Now, makeup is good. Out of my fight makeup, it's good when they put on right. But you got to have some type of classical way to put it on right. All the makeup they make is not made for certain people. Okay. It ain't made for everybody. Now, some folk can put on blue, green hair, red hair. It's okay. But some folk can't. Well, they can, but it ain't okay. I mean, if you let your fingernail grow so long that you can't eat with them, with your hand, that's a problem. This is something more prevalent in our minority and poor communities, where African Americans, Hispanics, or other ethnicities suffer from these symptoms. They want to be accepted. The scars of rejection are sometimes emotional damage, sexual and physical abuse, and ultimate broken heart. It is, and I'm glad that they are doing things. And I pray that we can get to our young men and get to our young ladies. And I pray that our young ladies will be the parent, will teach them and help them, because it's a hurt on both parts. When we was going to school, yeah, there was a lot of horsing around, touching and all of that. And they weren't violent like they are now. But now, if that happens, and a young man do that, I mean, they could put him out of school. He could go to, get out of school. They'll punish you. So we have to tell our children, don't put your hand on the opposite of the male. So it's a new day. And there's women that have been violated. They still have a problem with it, but they don't tell anybody. But sometimes that violation goes over into the marriage. And sometimes the husband get blamed or get the rebuttal for what was not done, and vice versa, because there are males that have been violated. So a violation is a violation. Nobody is supposed to violate you and get by. Nobody. I heard about a violation last week that just tore my heart apart. Just tore my heart apart. And don't think that in the church that violation don't go on. Sometimes it's the preacher, the pastor, that manipulate people. And many, how many folks have I not counseled that have been violated. Sometimes, especially in our community, most young ladies have either been violated or tried. Somebody attacked them, and you had to fight for your life. And normally the people that do it is folks you know. It's people you know. So the scars of rejection are sometimes emotional damage. They're not good enough. Sexual and physical abuse, and ultimate broken heart. Some of this simple stems from our hair not being good enough, our skin color, our gender have kept us out of jobs or promotion, and even in schools, better grades. Is that true? All of these things, well, we don't look at it as a church and we try to hide it, but it's happening. You've been discriminated on getting a job because you had the right skin or the right texture. You didn't get the promotion. You was qualified. When I was in Arkansas, I trained a man, a Caucasian man, to take my job. I trained him to take my job. They did. How you feel training somebody for them to take your job? But I did. That's why the land of opportunity, I took opportunity and left. Some of the other simple things is they kept us from being promotion and even in school, better grade. Some of our men are never able to get it together, not able to provide for their family. And that's what we got to do. We got to somewhere reach these young men, because these young men right now, 2% in college, 16% of black women. That make it a problem. Now, we've seen this in the last 20 years, and I'm not against it. God knows I'm not. We see that there are the black women now are marrying out of their race because they was tired of going to school and didn't have nobody to marry. And then they want to control what they was making and beating them like they still in the hood and they got their gangsters. So I don't blame them. I really don't. I don't blame them. No sister them marrying down. They going to school while they shooting dice and gambling and selling drugs and all that stuff. And the girl, she going there studying. They just interested in sports. Interested in sports. I mean, we can look up to make about church all over. It ain't just Great Open Doors, all over. The black man, you know, even if they say they saved, it's hard to get them to be faithful to coming to church. They'll rather be entertained by something else than saying they love God. Sometimes they come in running. They come in and they're just eager because they think the game won't come on before they get back. That's a part of our culture that need to be brought under control. There are some men now that don't provide for their families, and they got children 4 or 5 here and there and everywhere, and don't provide for them. And there are some men that don't even bother to get married because they say, well, I can run all over here and there. They don't even get married. That's you all fault, not you all that's in the church. But that's the fault of these women that'll let a man come in and he ain't working and run from place to place. You know he ain't no good. You know he'll play her. You lie to yourself. Everything's so quiet tonight. But it's the truth. That's why I wanted to give y'all a handout. There are some men who don't even bother to get married. Some of our sons and daughters don't do well in school. Some are always getting in trouble. Many take their anger out on society. Others in jail, prison, or probation. Some are living in the streets. Others on drug, alcohol, and sickness. Am I telling the truth? But there's still hope. Help me say there's still hope. For God so loved the world that he gave his what? That whosoever what? Shall what? But we have to hold on to God through all of the struggles, through all the ups and downs, to all of the discrimination. To right now, since in the last 2 years, hate crime for the Jews has gone up 80%. For the minority, it's gone up 35%. 2 years is worse than it was in the 60s. 2 years. But God, we got to go back to where we started. But God, we have tried to assimilate other cultures, but our culture has always been praying. Our mother prayed, our daddy prayed. That was our culture. The slave prayed, they prayed. That was our culture. And we are now trying to assimilate like others and do all the things that they do, and yet we're being rejected. And I'm not saying that I think we have more Caucasian people for us than we do against us. Probably maybe 10% that still do it. And they against everybody. That's what make America great again mean. That's what means that I'm a nationalist. That's what all those terms mean. But what we got to do is get back on our knees, start back to fasting and praying, start back to having some revival. We can't even have somebody come in for a 2-day revival because you won't show up. And then you say you want a revival, but you got to get somebody for 2 days. We used to have them 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, and you can't get 2 days to God. But yet we want God to deliver us. For God sent his son not into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. He that believeth on him is not condemned, but he that believeth not is condemned already. So if we don't get our children and our folks saved, they're already condemned. Because he have not believed in the name of our only begotten Son of God. And this is the condemnation, that light is come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light. Jesus is coming to the world, so he have to condemn you. He came to save, and men love darkness more than they love him, because their deeds were evil. For everyone that doeth evil hate the lights, neither cometh to the light, lest his deeds should be reproved. They don't want to stop doing what they're doing. But he that doeth truth cometh in the light, that is, his deed may be made manifest, revealed, and they are wrought in God. We're in trouble. Our family's in trouble. Churches don't address it much because you got bishops, pastors leaving their families, marrying 2 or 3 times. Nobody saying anything from the top. There was a time in the Church of God in Christ, if you got a divorce, they put you out of church. I've been in here 54 years. They put you out of the church. Now the very folks that were putting you out have married again. One of the most hurtful things in my life as a pastor, I was at a funeral of a Church of God in Christ pastor years ago. And a young man walked up to the casket that nobody knew and cried. And everybody was wondering why he was crying so much. That was his father, that he could never let nobody know that he got out of wedlock with another lady, and he come to see him when he was dead. He could never say, because his mother told him not to say it, he could never say that that man was his daddy. Now, can you imagine the hurt that was? And at his death, it was revealed that a lot of that's happening. A lot of that's happening. And I cried with him. I cried with him because I know that that had to be a great hurt. He was about 41 years old or 42. Dad was sipping money, but he didn't have time. He couldn't reveal it. Now, you are looking at this strange, but some of you all remember this too. How many of you all remember when a young girl would get pregnant and they send her away? Y'all remember that, didn't you? Somebody, she went on Ruthie. She come back with little Junior. No, I'm not. All of this cover up. All of this cover up. We come to church with masks on. And then when someone tell you about it, they get upset. I'm sure that there's somebody looking at me now upset, but I don't care. I'm going to tell it. If it my son, I would tell him. A man 30 years ago, midnight on a Sunday, called me. He was crying. And now this is something that happens, Elabary, to me. If preachers get in trouble that don't know me, I don't care if they talked about me, they call me. Is that true? Midnight, whatever, they call me and say, well, Lord, put you on my heart. My wife, I'm telling the truth. It's strange that God don't put them on their put me on their heart when they are doing well. And he said, I'm about to kill myself. And I said, what's the problem? He said, well, I'm married and I got a child. And the lady that got the child by is in the church. She is 7 months pregnant. She got to come off her job. And she want me to help her while she's off. And I'm not able to help her. And she said that coming up this Sunday, next Sunday, she's going to start up and tell the pastor in the church that she's expecting a child by me. So what should I do? I said, you go tell the pastor yourself, and you tell your wife. He said, if I tell her, she might leave me. You didn't think about that? You didn't have no thoughts about that, breaking a marriage vow? I said, if you don't, she's going to tap the church. But then if she don't tell, what if you, by the time you're in your prime as a pastor or leader in the street, and you're with a group of folks, and this child run up and say, this is my daddy. So there ain't no win in this. The truth make you free. So I prayed for him and told him what to do. He went and told his wife. She was very hurt like anybody else would be, but she stayed with him. He told the pastor, and the pastor, then they were silent for a while. And I said to him, you got to give that lady something for child support. And his wife helped him give him child support. When the baby was born, his wife adopted the child. It was a boy, adopted the child and reared him up. I see him when I go to the convocation. If I'm in the midst of thousands of folks, he looked me up. Is that true? He looked me up and run to me. He said, I'll never in my life forget the time what you done for me. And him and his wife is still together. The child is grown. So tell people the truth. Tell them the truth. That's your child, you do it. You take care of the child. You take care of the child. I want to know every child that's a part of the Hardens. And I've expressed that to my sons. I want to know every child that's part of the Harden. And if they're part of the Harden, I will accept them. I will accept them. I will. Because that's part of my, what is that word? Part of my projector, or whatever it is. Y'all know what it is, but that's part of it. For everyone that doeth evil hates the light, neither come to light, lest his deeds shall be reproved. But he that doeth truth cometh to the light, that his deeds may be made manifest, that they were wrought in God. Then Matthew 11:28 said, come unto me. When he had said, and when he had so said, she went her way. Okay, it should be Matthew 11:28. And that should read a little different. Get your Bible. It should read, come unto me, all you that are heavy laden and burden, and I will give you rest. Let's see if that said that. Matthew 11:28. Got it? 11:28. Come unto me, all you that labor and what? Heavy laden, and what he say you do? I will give you rest. Take what? Take my yoke upon you and do what? Learn of me. And in the original translation, it said, learn from me. Learn from me, and I'll do what? For I'm meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find what? Unto your soul. For my what? My yoke is easy, my burdens are light. Burdens and yoke, when he said that, yoke was what put the two oxen together. It was a stick that brought them together so one couldn't turn without the other one turning. But the yoke was heavy. And so he said his yoke was easy. Matter of fact, it was so easy. And he said, my burdens are light. Burdens mean a load. So my burdens are light. You won't even know what he was saying. You won't even know that you're carrying them. You won't even know you was carrying them. So many of us are going through. Many of us are going through many pains and hurt. But Psalms 14, 147:3 said what? He healed us of what? The broken in heart, and bind up the wounds, their wounds. Many of us are going through many pains and hurt with our families. But I'm here to tell you tonight, 2 Chronicles 7:14-15 said what? Which is what? What we got to do. And what? And do what? And turn to what? Turn from our wicked ways. Then will he what? And I will do what? And I will do what? Heal the land. Now my eyes shall be what? Open, and my ears attend unto the what? Prayers that is made in this place. And God promised to heal the brokenhearted. Psalm 34:18, the Lord is what? Nigh unto them that are of a broken heart, and save such as be of a contrite spirit. This can be a new day for each of us, a new beginning for each of us. Forget the pains and the hurts of yesterday. They are under the blood of Jesus Christ. All right, are there any questions? Any questions? I'll be glad to answer them. Something that you